Before you conquer anything in this world, before the business, the legacy, the empire, there is one battlefield that must be won: your own mind. Because everything you touch, every action you take, every word you speak, it all begins there. In the invisible, in the silent chambers of your thoughts. And the truth is, most people are prisoners in that space. Slaves to impulses, controlled by emotion, defeated by the very voice meant to guide them. But not you, not anymore. You were not born to obey chaos. You were not made to be ruled by fear. You are not some wild animal dragged by instinct. You are a mind, a will, a force capable of shaping fate. Marcus Aurelius understood this more deeply than most men ever will. As Emperor of Rome, with the weight of an empire on his shoulders, he looked inward, not outward, for mastery. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He knew the throne meant nothing if he couldn't rule his own thoughts. He knew external control without internal discipline is a hollow victory. And so must you. You want power? Then stop waiting to be handed it. Master your mind, and the world bends in response. Your reactions, your habits, your beliefs, these are not accidents, they are patterns. And every pattern can be broken, every weakness can be transformed, every thought can be re-engineered into steel. But first, silence the noise. The world screams for your attention. Distraction is sold as pleasure. Comfort is disguised as success. But in that noise, your power dies. You must become dangerous again, not with violence, but with vision, with mental clarity, with unshakable focus. Because the man who can sit alone in silence, who can master his reactions, who can delay gratification, who can remain calm when the fire rises, that man cannot be moved. He becomes the mountain. And the mountain is not arrogant, it simply stands, rooted in purpose, anchored in principle. You want to dominate your life? Then you must earn clarity, not by reading more, not by scrolling, not by talking, but by confronting the mess within and cutting it out with precision. No more lies, no more "I'll start tomorrow." No more stories that protect your weakness. The mind must be trained like a warrior trains for war. Every thought questioned, every emotion understood, every excuse destroyed. And it starts with belief, not belief in luck, not belief in fate, belief in your capacity to command this moment. Because you do have that power right now. The future is not built in years. It is built in single, powerful moments of choice. This moment is one of them. And if you choose belief over doubt, discipline over comfort, clarity over confusion, even for a second, you plant the seeds of transformation. That is how legacies are born. Think Carnegie waited for approval. Think Lincoln avoided self-doubt. Think Ford never questioned his sanity as he rebuilt the same engine over and over again. They all faced the same enemy, the mind, and they won. Because they chose to. And that choice, to master the internal before demanding anything external, is what sets the great apart from the forgotten. So ask yourself now, what thoughts are you feeding? What habits are you worshiping? What identity are you reinforcing with your routines? Because your mind is always listening. Every time you skip what you said you'd do, you teach it weakness. Every time you lie to yourself, you train it to doubt. But every time you act in alignment with purpose, your mind sharpens, your will strengthens, your power expands, your life is a mirror. And that reflection starts in the mind. You cannot dominate your life if your thoughts are disorganized. You cannot lead anyone else if you are lost inside. You cannot live on fire if your inner world is buried in ashes. This is your time to rebuild, brick by brick, thought by thought, habit by habit, not rushed, not frantic, but deliberate, focused, intentional. Begin with morning. Own the first hour, the hour the weak waste and the strong weaponize. Do not check your phone. Check your focus. Do not chase dopamine. Chase direction. Because how you start will determine how you fight, and how you fight will determine how you live. Dominate the day before it dominates you. Master your reactions before they master you. Lead your thoughts before they lead you off the cliff of regret. You are not a slave to fear. You are not bound to who you used to be. You are not here to get by. You are here to command. You are the general of your mind, and generals do not panic. They do not beg. They do not follow emotion. They lead through storms, through failures, through fire, and they rise again with greater clarity every time. So it's time to stop being surprised by adversity. Time to stop breaking under pressure. Time to stop blaming the world for a war you haven't yet declared within. There is no external victory without internal warfare, and you must win that war daily. That is how you dominate your life, by refusing to negotiate with your weakness, by showing up when nothing makes sense, by facing chaos with a mind sharpened by purpose. You are not your doubt. You are not your past. You are the architect of your future, and your mind is the blueprint. Master it, and the rest will follow. No one will hand you mastery. No one will gift you control. It is forged, not found. In the hours no one sees. In the decisions no one claps for. In the discipline that makes no noise but builds everything. You want to know who a man is? Watch what he does when he's alone. Not when the lights are on. Not when the praise flows, but when he's surrounded by silence with nothing but his thoughts. Most run. Most numb themselves. Most reach for distraction, for comfort, for anything to quiet the truth rising in their chest. But the few, the rare few, they sit in it. They confront the thoughts, they sharpen them, they clean house, because they know you cannot build a palace on a battlefield of chaos. You must first clear the land, your land. You must pull out the weeds of doubt, uproot the beliefs planted by fear, strip away every lie that told you this is who you are. You are not your habits. You are not your history. You are not your environment. You are the one who can interrupt the pattern right now. Do you understand the power in that? One decision. To think differently, to act differently, to become conscious instead of reactive changes everything. You've been conditioned by school, by failure, by parents, by a system that told you to comply, obey, fall in line, and be realistic. But Marcus Aurelius didn't rise by obeying. He rose by reflecting, by understanding the power of virtue, of intention, of mastery over the self. He didn't react to the world. He studied it. He didn't shout over emotion. He dissected it. He knew that the mind is a tool, and a tool unused turns to rust, but a tool sharpened daily becomes a weapon. That's what you are now, a weapon being forged in silence, in sweat, in repetition. So feed your mind like you feed your body, carefully. Starve it of distraction. Cut the noise. No more trash media. No more cheap dopamine. No more numbing out the call within. Because yes, there's a voice. Not the loud external voice of opinion, but the quiet one, the ancient one, the one that says you were meant for more. You're wasting time. Wake up, rise up, show them, show yourself what you're capable of. You don't need to scream. Let your actions speak. Let your routines do the talking. Mastery begins where motivation ends. You don't rise by waiting to feel ready. You rise by acting despite how you feel. You train when it's hard. You push when you're tired. You think clearly when your emotions beg for chaos. And that's what separates the warrior from the worrier. Emotions are not the enemy, but they are not the leader. You are. And leadership begins in your thoughts. You must know what you believe and why you believe it. Otherwise, someone else will think for you. And when that happens, you become a puppet, not a man. You think Lincoln led a nation through war without wrestling with fear. You think Mandela endured decades in a cell without confronting the edge of his own sanity? They didn't win by force. They won by mental fortitude, by owning their reality, by refusing to be mentally conquered. That is your call. Not to pretend you have no fear, but to learn how to ride above it, not to bury your pain, but to use it as a forge, not to be perfect, but to be principled. The mind is not some untamed wilderness. It is a city you must govern, and if you don't become its ruler, chaos will. Every time you let anger drive, you surrender your throne. Every time you escape into pleasure, you abandon your post. But every time you hold the line, breathe, reflect, choose with wisdom, you reclaim your crown. This is how you build a kingdom that lasts. Through thought, through stillness, through the daily grind of becoming sovereign over yourself. The man who cannot master his mind cannot master his destiny, but the man who can becomes unstoppable. He walks into rooms with presence. He speaks with precision. He acts with conviction, not because he knows everything, but because he knows himself. And there is no force more powerful than that. So when the world pulls you in every direction, when anxiety rises like a storm, when doubt hisses in your ear, remember, you have power. The power to pause, to choose, to command the moment. That is your throne, not given, not inherited, claimed. And once you claim it, protect it with your life. Because every inch you give back to chaos, to distraction, to reaction, weakens your foundation. And every inch you reclaim with awareness, with discipline, with focus, builds your empire. Your outer life is the shadow of your inner world, so build strong inside. Think clean. Act with honor. Train your mind like a soldier trains for war, daily, relentlessly, without excuse. That is how kings are made. Not in palaces, but in silence, in solitude, in the furnace of self-mastery. Master your mind, and you will dominate your life. When you master the mind, you no longer chase success. You attract it through who you become. Because true success is not an accident. It is a consequence, a result, an outcome forged by clarity, carved by consistency, and sealed by discipline. And it begins and ends with thought. A scattered mind leads to a scattered life. A disciplined mind builds a focused, unshakable reality. So audit your thoughts, ruthlessly, like a general inspects his troops before war. Are your thoughts building you or bleeding you? Are they fuel or fire? Are they aligned with your purpose or driven by your past? You must stop giving safe harbor to doubt, fear, and hesitation. They are thieves. They will steal your fire if you let them stay. When Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, he didn't retaliate with vengeance. He returned to principle. When his empire frayed at the seams, he didn't collapse under the weight. He returned to philosophy, to wisdom. He wrote not to impress the world, but to remind himself who he needed to be every single day. That is mastery. To hold the line, to choose virtue when impulse would feel better, to act according to your highest values, not your lowest urges, because at the end of the day, your life is not the result of what happens to you. It is the result of what you choose to respond to, and how. Your mindset is the architect of your identity, and your identity will write the story of your future. So who are you becoming? Every repetition, every thought, every action, they are laying bricks. And one day, you will wake up inside the house you built. Will it be a fortress or a prison? That depends on your standards, what you tolerate, what you reinforce. So raise your standards until they make the world uncomfortable. Raise your standards until your past no longer recognizes you. Raise them until they break every excuse you've ever told yourself about what you're capable of. Because comfort is a liar. It whispers sweet words as it steals your edge. But the man who rises to his highest self doesn't chase what feels good. He pursues what makes him great. And greatness never grows in easy soil. It's born in the grind. It's born when you study while others scroll, when you train while others sleep, when you build in silence while others seek validation. That's how empires are built, brick by invisible brick. And the first empire is not made of land or money or status. The first empire is your mind. The strength of that empire determines everything that follows. A weak mind folds in chaos. A strong mind sharpens inside it. You cannot control the weather, but you can become the storm. You cannot control who leaves you, betrays you, or doubts you, but you can become the man who rises regardless. That is your task now, not to predict the future, but to prepare yourself to meet it like a warrior. To be grounded enough to hold the vision, humble enough to keep learning, relentless enough to keep moving forward, no matter what's thrown in your way. Because the man who refuses to quit cannot be stopped. And the man who masters his mind cannot be ruled. That's you now. No more negotiation with fear. No more debating your value. No more seeking proof. You are the proof. Through discipline, through direction, through deliberate living. Let the world wonder how you stay calm when others panic. Let them ask why you don't chase distraction like the rest. Let them watch as you rise while they remain stagnant. And when they ask you for your secret, don't point to hacks, tricks, or strategies. Just tell them the truth. I learned how to rule my mind, and it changed everything. It will confuse them. It will confront them. Because most people have built identities on chaos, noise, and survival, but you are not most people. You are a different breed, built in silence, powered by vision, driven by purpose. Your confidence comes not from arrogance, but from alignment, not from pretending to be perfect, but from perfecting your discipline, not from being the loudest, but from being the clearest. So move through the world with intention. Don't just react. Respond with purpose. Don't just consume. Create. Don't just survive. Lead. Because everything changes when you realize you're not a victim of thought. You are its author. So rewrite the script. Rewrite it with clarity, with strength, with standards that would terrify your former self, and then go out and live it. Let your days be proof that your mind is no longer the master. You are. That is how you dominate your life. By mastering the only thing that truly matters, the thoughts you think when no one's watching. The man who builds a kingdom in his mind will walk through fire, and the flames will part. The flames will part. Not because the fire ceases to burn, but because you no longer fear the heat. Because when your mind is forged, your path is yours. You walk it whether it's smooth or jagged, whether it rains or roars, whether you are applauded or alone. That is dominance. That is power. That is freedom. You do not need the approval of the world when you walk with the certainty of a man who knows where he's going, and the man who knows where he's going is unstoppable. Look around you. Look at the chaos, the excuses, the distractions dressed up as desires. The world has given in to weakness, but you will not. Because you've seen behind the curtain. You've felt what happens when your mind is undisciplined. You've lived the version of yourself that ran from responsibility, that made comfort the king. and it almost cost you everything. But now you rise. Now you walk as a man on fire, lit not by rage, but by purpose, focused, grounded, unshakable, no longer pulled by the tides of circumstance, but driven by your inner code. The Stoics called it logos, the divine reason, the order within the chaos, the principle that holds the world together. It exists in you. It guides you when you're still. It speaks when you silence the noise. It moves you forward when every part of you wants to fall. And that is where greatness begins. In the decision to live by principle, not by pressure, you will be tested. You will face temptation. You will be handed 1,000 reasons to fall back into your old patterns, but you won't. Because your mind is no longer weak. It is fortified. It is disciplined. It is yours. You don't need to be the loudest in the room. Your presence speaks. You don't need to prove anything. Your actions echo. You don't need to convince the world because you've already convinced yourself that you can, that you will, that you must. No more wasting time. No more living small. No more dancing with distraction while your destiny waits. There are people you haven't met yet who will be changed by the man you're becoming. There are futures that only you can build. There are battles only you are meant to fight. But you don't win them by accident. You win them by sharpening your mind like a blade, by showing up every day like your life depends on it, because it does. And when you fall, because you will, you don't spiral, you rise. Because your mind doesn't seek comfort anymore. It seeks conquest. Your thoughts no longer run wild, they march with precision. Your life is no longer random, it is aligned with values, with vision, with victory. This is the rebirth of a man who has chosen to remember who he is, not a byproduct of his past, not a reflection of others' opinions, but the creator of his reality. This world is not owed to you. It will not yield easily, but if you are relentless, if you are disciplined, if you are focused, it will bow, because nothing can stop a man who has mastered his mind. Not failure, not fear, not even fate. The world breaks the weak, but you were never weak, just untrained. And now you've trained. Now you own your thoughts. Now you walk with a fire the world cannot put out. So go. Walk like a king, not because you were crowned, but because you earned it in silence. Speak like a leader, not because you need attention, but because your words carry truth. Live like a warrior, not because you crave battle, but because peace was never meant for the undisciplined. This is your mind. This is your life. Dominate them both, because no man was ever remembered for what he intended to do, only for what he became. You were built for more. You were built for war. You were built for wisdom. You were built for glory. You were built for impact. You were built for legacy. But above all, you were built to master your mind and dominate your life. Now prove it.